what our tool does, and I wish there was more tools out there doing it, is increasing effectiveness versus efficiencies.
Welcome to We Built This Brand, where we pull back the curtain on the people, the ideas, and the sometimes challenging process of building something that matters. Today, I'm joined by two leaders from FIG, the independent New York agency known as storytellers for the information age. I get to talk with Mark Figliulo, the founder, as well as Amber Higgins, their Chief Strategy Officer, and we get to talk about how FIG reinvented Publix with the Make Things Special story, why one chapter was entirely made by hand with no AI, and how data and creativity actually work together. So, without further ado, here's my conversation with Mark and Amber from FIG. Well, Mark, Amber, welcome to We Built This Brand. It's great to have you all on today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
I'm excited to talk to you all about the work you were doing at FIG and just to dig into how all that got started. So generally, I have one guest at a time. It's always fun to have an extra in the mix. So I'm happy to have both of you here. When I start, I like to talk about where your origins are. So like, how did you all get to the place where FIG was founded, and how did you all find your way to FIG? So Mark, I know you're the founder, so talk to me about how FIG got its start.
Well, I grew up in as a creative in the creative industry, so I've been doing this for decades now. And it got to a point where I was trying to figure out. I was at Chiat Day as the chief creative officer. I was trying to figure out, all right, what's next. And when I did all the interviews that people do, I was a global creative director by then, and I was shocked at how many, the big agencies, how many were identical. They just weren't solving big problems from my point of view. They were just getting by and trying to get to the next day. And that's when I realized, well, if I either had to shut up and get in line, or I had to start my own thing. And that's what I did, and it was the best decision of my career. So I'm thrilled. And I got to meet Amber. So
Eventually, 13 years in, but yes.
Nice. So Amber, what's your story? How did you start, and how did you find FIG?
Yeah, I've had a really fun time in this crazy business called marketing. I have had the unique privilege of sitting in what I would say are all three seats. So I have been a client, I have been a consultant, and I have worked for some of the best creative agencies in the world. And I think having such a well-rounded perspective on how hard this all really is. It should be fun and it should be easy, but boy, is it hard. And I'm thrilled. What brought me to FIG was StoryData and Mark, and the way he thinks about creative and the way he really wants to champion creativity in a way that I think the independents are certainly bringing back, and the others have, solely lost over time. So for me, it was that. He doesn't talk about creative the way everybody else does, but he does the creative I've done with everybody else. So I know its form. But I think it's really interesting to have a creative person say, we aren't data. Creative isn't data. And therefore we're losing because we're not even in the conversations.
Tell me more about that.
Back in 2017, we started just really tagging all our creative and trying to understand it. Like, hey, this story's about this story's about that. Deconstructing creative is a very manual process. We were just doing it to learn. But then as we did it and everyone kind of got into it, it became a bigger thing, and the data started piling up, and how we decode creative assets. And then we got to a point where, hey, why don't we automate this? So we built an interface, and we started collecting more and more data. It started being a real data set of creative data. And then just recently, so years went by and we just kept on automating it, and all of our clients started using it. It's a really helpful tool to understand how creative works, how to make better decisions, that kind of thing. All of our clients use it. And then about a year ago, we brought on Richard Bush, who's our CTO, and he's taken it to the next level. So StoryData is just getting bigger and bigger and better. So it's becoming a really powerful tool that in the coming months, you're going to be hearing more and more about.
That's exciting. So tell me, why is it StoryData? I mean, I've got some inference here, but I'd love to know, why that name?
Yeah, I'll take it. Because stories are really information, right? They are told in an entertaining way, sometimes with humor to be more persuasive, sometimes really emotional, so we remember them. But they really sort of are information. And stories are everything, right? Like we say, you can calm a child and overthrow a government with a story. Name something else that can do that. They're pretty incredible things. And we're creative at our hearts and our souls and with our hands. So stories are our medium, if you will.
I would just jump in because sometimes people hear data, even in the context of creative, and think we're building robots and stuff. It's really, how is creative going to keep up in today's world? We all know AI and all that stuff, but how are we going to interface with the new world? Because if we don't, as creative people who really care about stories, if we don't, the algorithms and the engineers behind them will do it. And I think that's very dangerous. They don't really understand the magic of storytelling or the intuitive process. So we're doing it. And importantly, our systems leave a lot of room for creatives. It doesn't say this is good or bad. It says, hey, this one has a probability of working better. And the creatives and the planners, everybody work with it, not for it. And it's a huge distinction. So we're still committed to creative like we have loved forever, but it is changing and we have to keep up. Otherwise, it's going to change for the worse. That's
one thing I would just add is, for me, it's taking in a lot of the, you've heard creative agencies and creative people especially say, just trust me. Like, I've been doing this for so long. I know what will work or what won't work. And having something where you can show a client what it will look like or what it could be in the context of what other competitors are doing, what other brands you might admire are doing, takes a lot of the subjectivity out of it. Right? It isn't a creative, selfish person telling you to do the thing that feels scary because it'd be great for their book. There's a real reason for it,
I chuckle at that because I was just at a conference with a bunch of book writers and folks like that. So I know what you mean. But yeah, trust me, bro, is not really
not a good business model.
It's how we've been running, though. It really is. And we go into the same room, same people, but we say, here's our big idea. We love it. And here's why. And it just helps clients get a little bit more context. So how to be braver, how to do the things that you're supposed to do, because they could see it better. They could see it more like a creative person.
So just so I understand this properly, like this information that you have, it's, I assume, some hard data that you're able to then tell in a story-like format that helps them understand the reason for it being effective. Is that a fair way to put it?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like, I want to be clear that, we use AI like everyone does, but we started, like I said, in 2017. This is a data set primarily. How we use it, we use it a lot of different ways, but I do think data is becoming more and more important. It's what AI machines could read and, work with. If you don't have them, and we're all using the same AI programs, we're all going to be thinking the same way. So when we approach it the same way, we use Claude and everything else, but we use it with our data set. And it's a world apart and it's consistent. So when we ask it a question, we get the same answer every time versus, one time you do this and then you get another answer the next day.
I've learned with Claude and a lot of these AI tools that context is king, especially if you're using Claude. Like, the more context you feed it, the better answers you're going to get back. And it really is a matter of what you put into it. So that makes sense.
Yeah. And the other thing, when you think about that, and when you think about, okay, data is really important, what data do you think Claude and all the programs are using? They're using consumer data. They're using media data. They're using financial data. No creative data is out there. So that's when I say it's a real problem in our industry, that's what I'm talking about. We have to supply these machines with creative data, and that's what we're up to.
And I think the one thing that we can maybe say with words, and you can imagine, is we can pair our creative data with media data. And why that's really important in today's world is because what you get served and what I get served and what Mark gets served are fundamentally different things. So sometimes our auditing capabilities are just really biased, whether we're the CMO or we're, an agency partner. So you need a way of being able to see what competitors actually did so that you can see what might be driving success or challenges or failures even. And having, machines are good at that. This is actually a really good part to give to the machine. And we can illustrate it. And more times than not, what you get is you have a lot of assets. You're not spending that much against them. And then what you get to talk about is this is why best practices for things like social platforms and creator content are actually very misleading and leading to a ton of wallpaper.
Yes.
Right?
That's the best way I can respond to that one. You're right. That makes, I mean, but all that makes sense. Like I have learned even within our own business that there's a lot of information out there. Like we're in podcast production. So like there's a lot of stats out there, but knowing what to choose, how to analyze it, how to understand it, like it takes part experience and context. And then it also takes understanding what that information's about in that data to help people make good decisions for how to grow a show. So, being able, like we've developed some tools and things like that similarly to, I mean, not in any way identical to what you all are doing, but, in a similar fashion, like following that same approach. So I'm very much tracking with this. That's cool.
Yeah. One last thing I'd say about the industry right now, it's pointing to AI for production. And we do that like everybody does, but it's not a big part of what we do. But the reason they're doing that is to be more efficient, to reduce costs on creative production. I don't think that's a great thing. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. And what our tool does, and I wish there was more tools out there doing it, is increasing effectiveness versus efficiencies. So, and again, that's something that a creative agency would believe in more than a media agency, for instance. So the battle's out there. We're coming for it. So it's I think it's the big issue of our industry right now.
I think that's fair. Because, yeah, you have people who aren't using context and are just asking AI for an answer on something, and they're getting, some article written 20 years ago or 15 years ago on the internet, and it's pulling it in and may not be good advice.
Yeah, exactly that. Or you've seen trends in our business, right, where some kind of marketing gets really popular, right? Whether it was purpose marketing, thank God that's gone. When, is entertainment's the new brand, right? Creation, creator, all the things, right? Related. It isn't true. All of those could be effective. So we need more permission for, creative representation in all these conversations.
Absolutely. So, Mark, let's go back a little bit. You talked about founding FIG. Where did the name come from? And what were those early years like? Like, what were some of your big challenges when you started the agency?
All good questions. So it's called FIG. I'll tell you the story. We used to be called Figliulo and Partners because we threw the name together in 10 seconds because our first client was Sprint and we had the whole thing. So it was a very unusual start. It was a very big client. So we had and then we went from 0 to 60. And when I say we, really importantly, Judith Carr Rodriguez is the CEO of FIG, and she was my partner 3 days in. I met her, and it's been great. We're like two coats of paint. And Richard Tan is our CFO, and he's another partner, along with Amber. So the four of us run FIG. So we got lucky right off the bat, and then I got even luckier finding Judith and Richard because without them, I don't think we'd be in business. Like I just didn't have enough bandwidth to know what the hell to do. I knew how to put a creative campaign together, but that was about it. And the three of us combined, we had a diverse approach to the business because Judith came from a digital background. So we knew how to triangulate everything. And I think that was our early success. And then it took off from there, and it was really a fun ride. I had to be honest with you. And it went up, and there's times it went down, and even the downsides, you feel it. So, it's better than when you're at a big agency, you don't feel much at all. Like all the bumps are smoothed out for you. When you have your own agency or a small agency, you feel the bumps, but that's part of the joy, I think. And then, so the highs are really high. Like right now, we're on a high.
That's great. Yeah, it's fun when you're in those seasons of growth and expansion and opportunities are coming your way. That's awesome to be in.
I realize I didn't answer your question, though. So it was called Figliulo and Partners. We quickly realized nobody could say my name because it's a hard one, Figliulo. So I grew up with the nickname Fig, and that's what we did. And importantly, at that point, this is about 3 years in, we turned it into Fig the Fruit. That's our identity, our graphics. And that was intentional. It wasn't about me so much. I got it off the ground with my name a little bit, but the agency quickly became much more than me. So I think it's a more honest approach to call it something other than myself. But there's a connection to the name.
now that the fig is the actual fruit, the fig is a part of your brand, like how has that evolved? Because I assume the brand messaging probably evolves once you adapt something like, a fruit as part of your brand.
Adapted, like I said, it didn't mean me. And I was, I'll say a traditional, creative director from the brand world and all that. And with the people we hired, like Judith and Amber and everybody, came from very diverse backgrounds. So all of a sudden it wasn't about, like I said, me or my background. It was about all of us. And we were creating something very different, very modern, I think. And the name helped us do that. It didn't define us too much.
And then, finding Sprint as an early customer, that's always, a great way to get a business started.
Not bad.
How nerve-wracking was that?
It was crazy. Most of this business it was luck. Like, I knew the right people from the past, and, one friend connected me to another, and all of a sudden I was in a room with the CEO of Sprint and pitched him an idea, and he loved it. And away we went. It was fantastic. So, and then, a couple of years in, we realized Sprint at that point in time was burning through agencies. And we knew, okay, we have to start our own agency before this is our first and only client. And we started pitching. We won Virgin Atlantic and Spotify. And it was just a quick, because we had that founding client, we had a reputation immediately. So other brands trusted us a little bit more. So it quickly, it just took off.
That brand recognition is key when you're early, getting somebody that you can point back to and share and say, we've worked with Sprint. Everybody knows who Sprint is, or, well, I guess used to. They're not.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not around anymore. I started my career in telecom, so I'm very familiar with Sprint and all that.
Same.
Nice. Verizon
and brought Boost Mobile to the U.S. and sold them to Sprint.
That is incredible. My story is not that cool. I was working for Windstream Communications, so
it's all learning.
Oh, it was a blast. Yeah, it was.
Telecom's fun.
But yeah, that is a great place to be. And then you've grown quite a bit since then. And I know one of the things we wanted to talk about today is one of your recent campaigns that you all have done with Publix. I believe the go-to-market plan was called Make Things Special, or the strategy was. So tell me more about that. How did that start? How did that come to be?
You said it, Mark, when you were answering the last question. It's relationships and luck is the foundation of most great things that are happening in this business. And for us, it was the relationship. It was love at first sight in both directions. It was the perfect first date. We really wanted what they wanted and appreciated who they were as a brand, and took the task very much to heart, not to change something that's been in business for so long, but breathe new life into it, and really learn who they were and how they got here. And we talk about it a lot, about like sort of crafting the next chapter of a brand's story. We're very respectful of the fact that brands have been around before us, and they'll probably be around after they work with us. And so we want to give it great care while we have it. And for Publix, it was that. Make Things Special was an elevated moment for them off of a line that they had for some time, which was where shopping is a pleasure. And they had lived it and breathed it and built themselves to be quite large and quite successful off of it.
Yeah, it was the founder's line, right? He wrote it himself, 100 years ago, whatever it was.
Yeah, but 100 years ago, the grocery market looked a lot different than it does now, especially with the Whole Foods of the world and all the, Trader Joe's having a second coming. There's quite a bit more going on in the world than there was when George started it all. But yeah, we really honored the lineage and the history, giving it, I would say, probably another breath. Hopefully that lasts for some time, because boy, are they fun to work with.
How challenging was that, changing that tagline from where shopping is a pleasure to Make Things Special?
Yeah, I want to be clear. We've kept where shopping is a pleasure. I don't think once you have a brand asset that strong, you shouldn't just chuck it out. What we did is we said, okay, how could it be more than a line? How could it be your strategy, your positioning? And so we really deconstructed that idea. And if you think about shopping being a pleasure, it's like everyday stuff made special somehow. And that really is how they approach, their service, is like every little thing, just elevate it. a little bit and make it special. So they're very good at making the things they do, the service and the products, very special. We said, why don't you invite your customers to do the same? Make other people feel special around the Christmas time, for instance. And you do that with preparing food for people that you buy at Publix, that kind of stuff. So it just all of a sudden it took what was already there. Like Amber said, this is just the next chapter. So we took what's already there and we just broadened it. And so everybody in the company could hold on to it and give it new meaning.
The reception, because we were so respectful of what we feel they were still doing right and where there was room to improve it. I've never had, and I've been in this business a really long time, I've never had such wide reception on first view, right? Oftentimes, you might get a light applause in the room, like, we appreciate that, thank you. And then the, comments and feedback start pouring in. But this was, not only did we get it, like it made sense and we understood the shift, but man, that's exactly what we need to do. And that was coming from business line owners, heads of media, people. The really special thing about Publix that maybe is worth knowing is everyone's been there a real long time. And people in their highest ranks there started as baggers. So they grew up in this business. There is such an immense amount of respect and appreciation for, like Mark said, all the details. So the line was part of it, but I would also argue that the way we helped them understand how they would go to market through that lens, so make things special as a core commitment and a core promise, now tiering what they would advertise against 3 really specific jobs to be done, for them reorganize the way that they market. And that, I think, was as surprising to them to understand and want as it was for us to, wrestle to the ground and write and craft. And it has been an organizing pillar for them as they go through quite a bit of transformation, which any business still operating today and being successful in these markets is having to do.
Yeah. So you mentioned 3 very specific things. What are those?
So one was exactly what Mark was touching on, which is you have this incredible core value and people have it too. So the thing that Publix shares in common with its customers is that making someone else feel special means something to them, right? There's people who instinctively seek to delight others, and they use food in the gesture of that. And so it works for Publix, why their employees are there, why what they want to do for a customer every day, what a store manager wants to represent, and it works for people. So we called it an establishing a shared value. And really making sure that people understood that, because Publix does cost more. It is a premium positioned product, which is not easy to do in food these days, as we are all suffering the price of bacon. And so shared value is one. The second was not to take for granted that as they grew into new markets, which they did not have 100 years of history established in, we really needed to make our difference tangible. So we needed to make sure that people understood, if I said why Publix, they could list off reasons. And so we said, don't underestimate for the markets that you've been in that people know this. You have to communicate it. You actually have to talk about it, because we're trying to expand into new markets. And even in our existing markets, there are a lot of new people to those markets, right? Because they're southeast, and there's a lot of people moving that way. And then the last one was they're a grocery store. This is a daily business, one in real time, right? It is, will you turn left into my parking lot or right into Trader Joe's? And so we have trigger more time sensitive reasons to visit. And those core pillars became why Make Things Special was the focus, how we were going to deliver it, and how we were going to reorient all of their marketing endeavor against it. And it's been really helpful.
It's a big challenge.
Yeah.
You're not just changing a brand title, you're actually, in a way, enabling some organizational change and some shifts in mindset to really align with that brand. It's not just a picture or an ad campaign at that point. It's very deep.
Yeah, it was structural, well observed, for sure.
Well, that's cool. So with this, I know there were 3 different ad campaigns that you all built. I believe they were Merry Birthday, Best Friends, and Our Pleasure. So would love to dig into those a little bit. And how does, one brand story, stretch into these three different campaigns and make them feel unique? Want to launch a podcast without the hassle? HumblePod makes podcasting easy. From concept to launch, we'll help you create a professional, engaging show. Already have a podcast? We handle editing, show notes, transcriptions, and even video production, so you can focus on your content. With our tailored services, you get high-quality production, seamless publishing, and expert support at every step. Whether you're starting fresh or leveling up, HumblePod ensures your podcast sounds amazing and reaches the right audience. Visit humblepod.com to get started today.
Yeah, it's a good question. As an example, our very first assignment was a Christmas campaign, which Publix, I have to give a shout out to them. That Mark, our client, it built a really great brand with communications over time. They were telling good stories, including Christmas stories. He just wanted to upgrade it again, and that's when we came in. Amber and I and the team built this idea of make things special. So the first story we told was Christmas, and we talked about it in the context of, well, who doesn't feel special? And one of the creatives came up with his name is Ton, and Ton and Keegan are the creative team behind this. Ton just came up with this insight of like, well, there's a lot of people born on or near Christmas that just lose their birthday because of it. Christmas, dominates their birthday. And we thought that was huge. So we worked on various stories, and we came up with one where there was a little girl who was kind of pissed off at Santa. She was like, I've had enough. I want a birthday for Christmas. And we showed Santa stop in the sleigh going towards a Publix, and he stops at Publix, gets not only all the stuff for birthday, but a special cake that says Merry Birthday. And that's the big reveal at the end. And importantly, we were able to, that cake that we designed with Publix together, we sold at the stores, and it was a huge success. So it wasn't just a film, it was a whole activation surrounding it. And it got on the news and all this stuff because we were doing something special for people who needed something a little special that day.
Well, I thank you for that campaign. My birthday is December 13th.
There you go.
My uncle's is December 24th, and my father-in-law's is December 26th. And my sister-in-law's December 14th. So I have a lot of December.
That we will send you a cake.
Yes. Yeah, that story resonates really well with me. So yes, we'll have to.
The really treasured moment for me was the CEO then also went with his wife to the local hospital on Christmas Day and delivered cakes to all the new moms.
I love that so much. That's awesome.
It was really great. They really embraced it. To your point, what a treasured moment to have something that we make, right, which is commercial in nature, turn into something so much bigger than that. Those are the moments, you hope for in your career. And we were lucky to do that with them. And the thing to know about it too, is they own Christmas. If you fly to Florida to go see them and you get in any cab or, Uber, and they say, oh, we're taking you to Publix. Oh, they're Christmas spots. That's the whole town talks about it. It's like, well, I shouldn't say town, the whole state talks about it. So it is not an easy bar to elevate, is all I will say.
And that was directed by Seb Edwards, just for the record. And that's another thing I do think the agency brought to Publix is a quality of production. Because we when we first met them, we all looked at the very best Christmas ads done around the world. And one thing they had in common was they're longer than the average commercial, and they're very high production value. So we were committed to that. And Seb Edwards is a great example. The Best Friends commercial you're talking about, that was directed by Mark Malloy, who's just A-plus director. And Miles J is, for the third thing we'll talk about, he's director there, and each of them are at the top of their game. So it's an important element of it.
Absolutely. We've had the good fortune to talk to the folks at Breakwater Studios. I don't know if you're familiar with their work, but yeah, that whole industry, like I love it when you see people in commercial work that are really good at what they do, because it shows. And being able to work with them and find ways to get them involved in projects, I just think when you can do it, I know you know this, but it's worth every penny and every bit of
Oh,
effort.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So the Merry Birthday campaign, that's awesome. And then Best Friends. Tell me what the Best Friends campaign was about.
There's a connection there. Yeah. And then I'll let you do this one. There's a connection because so they have this stellar reputation for Christmas. And our observation was we need another Christmas. We need another moment in time where we go that big and we really start to establish our presence. So strategically, it started with strategy. It started with where is this other moment where we can show up and it makes sense for business reasons, and what is our way in. And we found a pretty interesting idea around how communities, their community grocery store, they grew up, one town at a time. How do communities show affection and engage? And a lot of community efforts are around food, right? So you have the neighbor moves in, you make something and you take it over, right? Potlucks galore. You start adding cultural nuance to that. Different groups of people, different backgrounds. Food is at the center of all of that. Summer, winter, every time of year. So it started with this idea of we have the right to talk about community engagement, and community comes together around food, and we sell food, and we're a community grocery store. So that's the strategy bit of it, anyway.
Yeah, and that's where we take over and we say, okay, community, neighborhood, who needs to feel special? Well, what if it was a group of dogs, and who do they want to make feel special? And it turns out they wanted to make the mailman feel special because there's some miscommunication, and they found out that the mailman is leaving the block because they've been up to bad things with them. And that was the story. So it starts off with a community center, and it's all filled with dogs. And we did it all with puppetry, like old-fashioned puppetry. And they look amazing. It's really, Mark Malloy did a fantastic job with the craftsmanship. And it starts off with these dogs having a meeting, and they're saying, what are we going to do about Bob being the mailman? He's leaving the block, and it's our fault. And then they're like, well, what do we do? And then we do a series of cutbacks to them biting his leg and peeing on his leg and eating his lunch and all this stuff. And they're like, now what? How do we make him stay? And one of them says, I got it. And he goes, we're going to bake. And so they go to Publix. You see them with the bags and everything. They dump it out, and they're in the kitchen of one of the owners, and they just go to town trying to figure out how to make a pie. Not very good at it at first. They learn it. And then you see them delivering the pie to the mailman, and on the pie it says stay. And then he's like, oh, how could I leave you guys? And that's the story. So it's great. It's the same thing. They're trying to make someone feel better, and they use food to do it. So it's pretty straight story, but it's really well told because of the craftsmanship.
So this was handcrafted, like no AI generated content.
Not at all. Yeah, the touch up at the end, but each dog, we had, I think, a total of 9 dogs, and each of them had 3 puppeteers each. So it was a significant production, but it was fantastic. They did a good job.
So from that one, I mean, you then move on to the Our Pleasure campaign, and let's talk a little bit about that as well. What was really the focus there?
This one is what I was touching on earlier around like the pillars. It's making our difference tangible for people. So this is now Publix's chance to say to its customers what it's doing to make their time with us special. So sometimes those can be really specific human moments. Like I might remember you don't like tomatoes on your sandwich because I know you come in on Tuesdays and you always get the same one. It could be a longstanding tradition where they walk bags to cars for people who need a little extra help. To the way they bag the groceries, which is my number one complaint about Trader Joe's, is they do not throw your fruit in the bottom of the bag and bruise it after you've spent gobs of time making sure that you got a good one. Every ounce of the store, the way they, reorder things on shelves, making them look clean and dusted and perfect all day. You never see someone working there standing in a corner, texting on the side. They are always looking after that store, making sure if someone's lost, they take them to an aisle and show them where they can find something, all the way down to free cookies, which I grew up on. I grew up in Miami, and we all know, can we go? Can we go? Can we go? Because kids get free cookies at the bakery.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And the scale of the stories are different. These are really, small little gems. Like a couple of them are just one shots with voiceover, and they have a really powerful, quiet vibe to them. Whereas the job one stuff, the stuff at the top that we were talking about, are big. They're expansive stories. There are kind of crown jewels, but that second layer is really important, and there's a lot more of them. And the 1-2 punch is really great. They do different things, but they do it. They complement each other.
And if I understand correctly, too, this last one was actually done on film as well. It wasn't a digital, or it may have been simultaneously. I know that happens sometimes, but
no, you're right. You're right. It was shot on film, which is that nod to craftsmanship, which we have in all of the productions. And so it's important to us as an agency. It's also very important to Publix because they put a lot of effort into everything they do. And that effort has to include communication. So production value and storytelling is very important to them, which is great.
As someone who shot film photography, but not video, but who shot film back in the day, I understand the value of having, that negative too, that they have. It's like an archival thing. It feels like you actually get a physical product from the work. It's not just, where is that in our Dropbox account?
It's the second client this year that we've shot on film. So Benjamin Moore, we did a spot with shooting on film. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I think it's a statement against AI. One of the things I never would have predicted is because AI is so cheap and ready, but not high quality, clients are saying, well, I want to prove our quality. I believe in craftsmanship. I didn't expect that. I thought everyone was going to jump on the bandwagon, and that hasn't happened. And it's another reason we did puppets in an analog sense. We could have done that with CGI, but we thought it was important to get that craftsmanship. So I think craftsmanship is in right now. So
I have noticed that's a trend this year, especially with technology and things. As I was looking, like what is everybody trying to do? Like in the creator space, what's being pushed really hard is doing live streams and things where you have a really hard time faking it or using AI to prove it as anything but real. And I think there's definitely a push for that. And if you look at the consumer market, typically when they find out AI is involved, there's a revolt. It's not every time, and it depends on how it's handled. But Coke has doubled and even tripled down on doing AI ads and things like that. And every time it comes with some level of hate, some level of annoyance, and people kind of passively accept it, I guess. But I don't see a lot of love for it right now. And I could be wrong, but I don't see a lot of love for it.
Yeah, I feel like it went through a phase, right, where as creative people with new tools, you want to see what it can do. And there was a surge to lean in and be like, can it do this? Can it do that? So you could figure out where, that's not good. Don't do that. Don't set this precedent. Like we all had to sort of form our own opinions. But I would agree with you now. I feel like people's go-to is like, that's AI. And you're like, no, it's not. Like, calm down.
Just to bring it back to what we were talking about before with the StoryData thing we're doing, as an example on Publix or any of our clients, we do not sit there and type in what kind of commercials. We go do what we do is great strategy, great creative. And then we ask the tool, we put our creative into it and say, hey, is this emotional enough? Is it different enough? So it's just like a guide. It's not, you don't get an output from it. You just get yes, this a probability that you're doing the right thing here. I think that's very different than how a lot of agencies are using AI right now.
And I think that's the way to use it, honestly. I think using it as a structural framework tool or to assist with automations or to do things in that realm is where it makes sense. But yeah, once you start making it, hey, here's the final product. Oh, this was all AI. You start running into issues. I mean, and then of course you have the clients that want to stay cheap and they're like, oh, we'll just use AI on it. And then they come back to you and they're like, we did. And this took us twice as long because all the outputs were bad. So it becomes a whole thing. I mean, what the horror stories this year are people going, oh, we didn't get our annual bonus because, our boss blew the budget on AI tokens. And so
right, exactly. Whereas what we do is we have this data set that we've taken years to build. AI is just helping us ask it questions. You know, I mean, that's all it really is. And then production-wise, we do, like I said, we do the prototyping and everything, but we don't use it for final production. Not yet. It's not ready yet.
I mean, it's definitely handy for people like me who are stick figure artists when it comes to drawings. If I want to block out a storyboard for a client on something we're working on, it's much easier to have a visual representation. But
yeah, exactly.
So Publix is really big campaign for you all. What's kind of on the horizon? Is there anything you can talk about or anything you're excited about in the coming year for FIG?
Well, we just dropped a new campaign for Tropicana. I don't know if you got a chance to see that just last week. And it's a really fun one. I think it's going to disrupt the category. It doesn't look and sound and feel like a orange juice ad. It's really different, and it just makes a lot of sense. Amber and the team came up with a breakthrough strategy on it of that orange juice is actually how we use it for uplift, for energy. And we took that, the creatives took that, we wrote stories about it, but we placed it in the tropics. So Tropicana and the tropics just makes so much sense. But it just it hasn't been done. So all of a sudden the whole brand has a new look and feel that I think is really exciting.
We'll provide a link to that. I think y'all have some of that on your website. We'll provide a link to that in the show notes for people, that and all the Publix stuff, because it's so fascinating. Publix, actually, funny side note for me personally, is we live in Tennessee, and we used to go on vacation. We still go on vacation to Florida. Florida is like going to Florida and seeing a Publix is like, for my family for years, it was like, oh my gosh, they have a Publix. Like, it was a destination. And then when they finally came to my hometown in Knoxville, like, family was just like, oh my gosh, we got a Publix. And now there's one on my drive to my parents' house. So it's become a lot more of our local story. So we don't have like the history behind it for us is like, this is the vacation grocery store. And now it becomes like the place we can go, to get stuff. It's well respected. Where'd you get that cake? Oh, we got it at Publix. Oh,
I was going to say, so neighborhood, you'll definitely get a merry birthday cake.
Yeah, indeed.
Yes. Yeah. I'm going to have to go check it out. Yeah. And for all my family too. Okay, so as we wrap up, I always like to ask, we talked a lot about AI during this conversation, but it doesn't have to be AI, but in general, with the trends and with things going on in the industry, what are you looking forward to in the industry as a whole?
I was thinking about this. You know how in engineering there's front end and back end? Nobody talks about it or thinks about it, but that's where all the stuff happens. And the front end's just kind of isn't this nicely designed, I think the same thing's happening in our industry. The creative's the front end, and we think that's what everybody's seeing, and we're making all the big decisions. Meanwhile, it's the back end making all the decisions. And the back end is the programmatic, and it's tension media, and it's traditional media and performance media. The media guys, they've done a very good job at optimizing media and getting attention of a client, making it cheaper for them to go to market. The problem is it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Not as effective as they say. So they need the creative. And I hope the industry, and I do see signs of it, are going to come back together. And creative does its thing with effectiveness, and media does its thing with efficiencies. And together we could solve big problems. That's what I'm excited about. Because I don't think right now creative has the voice it used to have. People like me could have walked into a room at one point and clients would listen to you. Now they're listening to the data, and we the creatives don't have the data. That's what I'm excited about changing, getting back in a room and making creative the first and last thing that a client thinks about.
Yeah, it's well said. I think for me, it might be similar, but I'm going to say it more provocatively because it's just me. But I think we need a reckoning. I think it keeps happening. And I think really big headlines get found out and people break really big stories about the lies that are very lucrative in this business. And I like that we have a lie detector. And I would like to, get in as many boardrooms and conference rooms as I can to be like, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. Look. Because I think it would help creative, and creative still is a pretty phenomenal tool in the toolbox for businesses and brands.
What do you think is the biggest lie in right now that you see going around? You're like, if I could just stop it, I would stop it.
I think for me, it's the black box, that you have marketers spending enormous amounts of money and they don't even really know what ran.
Yeah. On top of it, another lie I should say is performance. Anybody who spends 10 minutes looking at it is based on clicks, and clicks could be cheated. The bots click for you. So right off the bat, you're looking at something you don't really know what you're looking at. That's a huge problem. And when I say performance, it's not the kind of work I do personally, but that work is growing and growing and growing. CMOs have to deliver numbers, and performance is, it appears the only way to do it. So I think that's a huge threat, and it's based in large part on fraud, not intentional, but the result is a lie. So it is something we have to solve. And I think everybody wants to solve it. I don't think anyone's saying, no, let us lie. Like, the systems are just, they have, holes that we have to patch.
Yeah, I would think that's that. It's that we should all revel in the day where we don't have to pass the tests, because the state that passing the tests has taken our industry to is horrifying and really lacks inspiration and excitement. And that's why so many of us are in this world. We are creative people, whether we hold the pens and the creative or cameras, if you will. Like we all are creative people. That's why we like it.
It's still there. I mean, just today we were sitting around with some of the creative directors and stuff. We're all hanging out talking about, did you see that spot? Like, I think we were talking about the Adidas spot with Timothée Chalamet. It's amazing. And we're just like, holy shit, did you see it? It's still there. Everybody just marvels. When there's a great story, people just gather around it and are jealous of it. And it's just great. And that's still happening. It's just we have to push some of these forces back and let it happen more often.
So on that point of creativity, I have two kind of wrap-up questions. One I don't normally ask, but I'm going to ask it anyway because I'm really curious. And that first question is, how do you stay inspired? I mean, I find that creativity is something that you can't just magically have. Like, you have to feed that engine somehow. So how do you stay inspired for creativity within your own business?
I always go back to something I was told when I was a kid. And that was, I'd say, I'm bored. And she's like, my parents would be like, if you're bored, you're boring. And I was like, what does that mean? I mean, I just consume the world, everything, pictures, books. I'm a big reader, movies. Ideas are everywhere if you go looking for them, even a walk around the block. So you got to stay out there. You have to stay connected to the world and appreciate its changes and just consume. Not stuff necessarily. That's not really my thing, but definitely ideas.
Yeah, I guess I would say hitting my head against the wall. I'm really inspired by a problem, and the harder the problem, the better. And once I have it in my head, and I think it's true of most creative people in the broadest sense, anybody who works at an ad agency, I think we're those types of people. Engineers are like this too. It's like you throw a problem at them, they drop everything, and all of a sudden they go from this to this, and they really laser point, focus on it. I love that process. And it's the kind of thing you stay up all night doing, not because it's your job. It's because you want to solve the problem in an elegant way. So that's how I get, inspired, is just by figuring something out.
Well, and the next question, final question, you all probably know this is coming, but just want to ask, what brand do you all admire the most right now?
I thought about this one a lot. There's a few. I really do thoroughly enjoy watching a industry compete. So I do like watching Anthropic compete with OpenAI from an advertising perspective, because boy, do I miss those days when, cars would fight for the moment. But for me, the most surprising one I saw recently, because we had, the Olympics and Super Bowl, was ACG's return from Nike. That was like, you were like, oh, I haven't seen that version of Nike in a really long time. And it was culturally in the landscape in a way that I just kept getting served and discovered. It felt alive as work in a way that I was like, who did that? I remember reaching out to everybody, who did this? Who is in charge of this? This stuff is absolutely amazing. So for me, it was ACG.
Yeah, I started in the same place. I have two. So Anthropic or Cloud is right up at the top for me. First off, it's really good advertising from Mother. They're doing competitive, really good advertising. More importantly, it's a great product. We use it all the time. And then that third is the company has an ethos. They do try to make good decisions. At least I'm buying it. Like they're pushing back where they're supposed to push back. All those things add up to what a brand story really is. advertising and communications are part of it, but it's not everything. And when they line up, it's fantastic. Squarespace. David Lee is the creative director there. He just hits home runs every time he gets to the plate. And this past couple of years, he's just, on fire. And both brands, because they're so good and they have that belief system, everything, they know they have the confidence in storytelling. They really believe in their brand and they're proud to do it and do it in a different way that really captivates people. So bravo to both of them. I think they're doing great.
I mean, those are all really good brands. I remember the Nike campaign, if it's the one I remember, was really impressive. I was like, it felt like Nike's back. Like, where has it been? But it really felt like it came back. I had the good fortune years ago to meet Stanley Hainsworth, who was part of that team and everything. And I've just, there's just a nostalgia with Nike as a brand that I think a lot of people love. And so to see them come back with that campaign was really great. But yeah, those are all awesome. Well, thank you all for coming on today and for chatting. If people want to get in touch with FIG or you all individually, where can they go? How can they get in touch with you all?
We are figagency.com for those who are World Wide Web inclined. And we are FIG both on Instagram, just FIG on Instagram and LinkedIn. Mark and I and all the names he's shared with you today about FIG are all contactable individually in any of those platforms as well.
Well, thank you all. Thank you all for coming on. And yeah, we hope to maybe have you back someday.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks for checking out this episode of We Built This Brand. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe on your player of choice. You can also keep up with the podcast on our website at webuiltthisbrand.com. If you like this episode, please give the podcast a 5-star review and make sure to tell all your friends about it so we can continue to build this brand.